Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into a new edition of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. Mike Rifkin, the old ops guy, Danny Boy Reginald. Gentlemen, spring training is upon us. How are we?
Spring training is here. And of course, the Family Guy episode where Stewie drops his head has already happened, and it hasn't been a full day of spring training.
It's true. Dan, how are you?
I'm feeling good. The Yankees scored 22 runs against the Tigers on Saturday, so that was good. And I lost 32 pounds since December. So,
There you go.
Hey!
So what you're saying is, in about the 2 months you've lost 32 pounds, the Yankees scored 10 runs less in one day.
Yes, exactly.
So what we're basically saying is the Yankees need to catch it up.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And hopefully they'll do that throughout the entire spring trading.
Oh, all right.
That would definitely make you happy.
Oh yeah, man. Well, what will make me more happy is if Juan Soto could actually have a resurgent season and stuff, and
Oh,
Aaron Judge can be healthy, and Giancarlo and his slim ass. Have you seen Giancarlo? He's no longer buff and everything.
Well, that's what happens when you stop doing the roids.
my God.
What is that supposed to
We-
mean, Mark?
oh, man. Listen. Giancarlo, we don't insinuate anything here. Well, not with
He
that.
might not.
All right. We start with the news that actually broke overnight, though.
I was
Thanks a
fast
lot,
asleep.
Jeff Passan, for breaking this. Cody Bellinger has signed a 3-year contract with the Chicago Cubs worth $80 million. Opt-outs after the first 2 years are included in the deal. So we've been waiting for these bigger fish to fall. And now that spring training is here, Cody Bellinger is the first one, Mark.
You know, if you've read my articles over the last few weeks, I would, as a diehard Mets fan, I like Starling Marte, but he's definitely been a fail over his 3 years. I could see a vision where you put Cody Bellinger either in as the DH and then use him with Drew Gilbert in the following year to play right field. However, I think Steve Cohen is pretty much set with what he wants to do in the outfield, and we're not going to see any more major signings there. So, Cody ends up staying with the team. He actually had a nice resurgence year on, and maybe, I believe the contract, Mike, like you said, has opt-outs after the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if the odd chances that the Cubs win the World Series and the World Series MVP, I can almost guarantee you he'll opt out to get one hell of a huge contract. But we can talk craziness later.
Well, the other part is, though, if he just has an MVP year, he can opt out and put himself back out on the market. It has nothing to do with the team. It has nothing to do with their success. I think if he, by the way, he had a great year last year. Being out of the spotlight of Los Angeles, it seemed to do him really well in Chicago. So, and the Cubs are listen, we'll save it for when the division previews actually start, but the NL Central is wide open. There's not one team that's going to dominate the NL Central. And if there is, I don't know who it is, so don't listen to me on bets with it. But listen, he goes to a place where he's still gonna be the guy kind of deal. So listen, him staying was the right call, in my opinion. Dan,
I mean, he had to sign somewhere. Um, I know that it's been rough for players like Cody Bellinger, something that the players union has been very vocal about the fact that a lot of these great superstar, if not superstar players, superstar potential players are not being signed. So he had to sign somewhere. And the Cubs were pretty much the only one willing to give him that $30 million that he's getting now. Which I know he probably less than what he wanted, but he goes back to a team that he's done very well with. You know, they love him in Chicago. I think he likes the spotlight over there. Still big time city, big time ball club, legendary ball club, the Cubs. And he's gonna run it back. Like I think he's good enough player that he's gonna run it back. He's gonna, probably hit 300 again because he hit 300 last year. So it's like, he's definitely going to be that guy. And they could use him, in a young Cubs team that's growing, that's trying to make a big run at it. I know they didn't make much of a run last year. Down the stretch, they were good. To me, they have a big shot at, at least, making some noise in the National League. And with that Central Division pretty much wide open, now that the Brewers have traded Corbin Burns, it looks easier now for the Cubs to run it back a little bit.
And as you mentioned, Bellinger last year hit 307, 26 homers, 97 RBIs, 356 on base, and a 525 slug. So he had a total bounce back from what was, let's be honest, a disaster in Los Angeles, where he had become a platoon player, basically. And he was hitting eighth, ninth in that lineup. And albeit the Dodgers are the Monstars, if we're going to make a Space Jam baseball movie, the Dodgers are the Monstars. So I think Wrigley Field did him well. I think being in that environment does him well. And look, like we said, if he plays well enough, he can opt out, get himself some more money. But Cody Bellinger back on the north side of Chicago. Next up, the thing everyone's talking about, the uniforms. And boy, do we have issues.
The funny thing, here comes the funny thing. As a sport card dealer, when Fanatics, and Topps now have this license in 2026. Right. I was going to say that. Don't worry, Mike.
That's my inner patch.
We got a good glimpse at what these uniforms look like. It is woman porn. I'm sorry. I hate to classify it. Some of the pictures of these guys sitting down to take their pictures, they looked embarrassed. They looked not happy. They're too form-fitting. Literally.
And the Players Association has said to the league, we want this kind of changed by opening day. So we'll see what happens. But Dan, your thoughts on the new uniforms?
I'm sick and tired of seeing the cup and the crotch and everything that's on those pants. It's not fine. I don't care what MLB says. It's not the same. The lettering in the back is not the same. The pants clearly are not the same. Like it looks bad. It looks bad for the league, and they look. Obviously, it's too late to change it for this season, but they had something going these past 20 years with these uniforms. So the fact that this whole thing with Fanatics and it's just not working. It looks bad. It looks terrible.
Dan, you and I talked last week on this podcast, and we said we talked about Rob Manfred's legacy, and because he announced he's going to retire when his contract's up in 2029. Like, this uniform change is part of his legacy. Like, this is not good. Like, Mark, you and I were talking before, and like how great was the list Gary Cohen and Ron Darling yesterday. Ron Darling's like, yeah, one of the things he hates is the little letters. You know,
Yes.
unless you're a diehard baseball fan or the New York Yankees, where the name is just invisible on the jersey, you don't know who's playing where if you can't see the name.
And that's always been a focus point, dealing not just as a team, as certain teams, like we said, the Yankees like to use invisible ink. Um, Knowing the player, where he is, who he is a forefront not only for team members. How about all the fans that are kids who are looking out there and looking out to see their favorite players and can't tell if it is or is not? You know, the jerseys were fine. You want to change companies, I understand it. Things can be changed, licenses can be changed. Just don't change the dimensions. They should have just kept it the same. You had a perfect fitting look. You want to change design a little bit from the patterns, fine, but if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Kind of feel like that's the story of the game before and after Rob Manfred took over.
That too.
I mean, but I mean, yeah, like they're just it's so bad. The
But
bands, like,
it doesn't have to be bad. That's the problem.
no, it doesn't. You may. This is one of those things where you walk out of the house looking like that, and you made a choice.
Yeah.
It may not be the right choice, but it's certainly a choice.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I don't know. If you like the new uniforms, let us know. But if you don't, also let us know.
And
Comment on
and we'll understand if you don't like that's
yeah,
the
we
thing.
totally understand.
Trust me, from the panel here, you can clearly show we would be on your side.
Just like Nationwide, not a sponsor. All right. That really is my inner patch now. Him getting me to say not a sponsor. All right.
The patchy effect.
The patchy. At least it affected something else. All right.
Not his vision.
All right. All right. Next order of business. MLB Network released their top 100 players in baseball. If you want to go through the whole list, do it on your own time. We'll go through the top 10.
I was about to say, I love you guys, but I ain't doing 100 ball
No.
players today.
I only went through the top 10. At 10,
Top 10 is good.
they got Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. At 9, they got Garrett Cole of Dan's Yankees. At number 8, they got Yordan Alvarez of America's team, the Houston Astros. 7, they got Juan Soto, now of the Yankees. 6, Corey Seager, the Texas Rangers. 5, Freddie Freeman of the Monstars. 4, Shohei Ohtani of the Monstars. 3, Aaron Judge of the Yankees. 2, Mookie Betts of the Monstars. And the best player in baseball, according to MLB Network,
Me.
Ronald Acuna Jr. of Mark's Atlanta Braves.
F you, but there are a couple names on the top 10 who I have a problem with. Okay, look, it's not because these guys aren't good ball players. Do not get me wrong. Dan, no offense, Juan Soto does not belong there. I don't care when anyone says, look, the guy has performed on the field. The guy has performed off the field. It doesn't matter. He's commanding such contracts. Yeah, he won one, but come on. He does not deserve to be on the top 10.
Okay, so if you're taking him out, who are you putting on?
in all, if it was me, yeah, playing a little bias, I have a few people. If you want to take out somebody that you need to get in there, I don't care if he had a bad season. It's Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh,
Paul Goldschmidt is one of the finest hitters in baseball. The guy had a bad year. Look, it happens in baseball, it happens in golf, it happens everywhere. You get the yips, fine. Let's hope he has a breakout season because I love watching that guy swing a bat.
hashtag Goldschmidt happens. Oh, we lost Dan for a sec. Dan, you still here?
Yeah.
Okay. Your thoughts on the list?
Well, I love that Julio Rodriguez made a jump. He jumped from 16 to 10. That's a massive jump.
Mhm.
And rightfully so. Like the dude has been unbelievable these past couple of years, really getting into the groove of the league. And, he's a stud, dude. He is a massive stud. So I'm glad to see him grow. I am very shocked that Garrett Cole is 9. He should be higher than that. He should be higher than good. And look, as much as I love Freddie Freeman, he should be higher than Freddie Freeman.
I'm not one usually to ever argue with Dan, but really,
Yeah. He was the
well,
best
I'm not
pitcher in
going to doubt
baseball.
that. I'm not going to say the guy's not probably one of the top 3 pitchers in baseball right now.
He was the best pitcher in
not gonna-
baseball.
I said top 3. I mean, I didn't say who's 1, 2, and 3. I'm to put him in the echelon of baseball. I just don't think he deserves to be in the top 10.
Why? But he should be in the top 10 because he's the best pitcher in baseball.
Now we're getting into the argument of the position player versus the pitcher,
Yeah.
and the pitcher pitches every 5 days. I'm not saying anything's wrong. I don't disagree. I think Garrett Cole should be in the top 10 if he's that important.
But I just feel like look, and there's nothing wrong with Freddie Freeman. I'm not saying Freddie Freeman's not in the top 10.
I know you're not.
All I'm saying is that Garrett Cole should be higher than him.
I think Garrett Cole
Okay.
should be higher than Juan Soto, if I'm being totally.
I don't think Juan Soto should be in there.
You're right.
At least Dan and I are agreed and aligned on that.
I think the 3 of us are aligned on that one. I would put Soto in that next category, 11 to 20 or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
That's fine.
Look, sorry, Mike.
No,
in
go ahead.
sports, we're all gonna never. I mean, if you look at Dan and what he's wearing, and look what I'm wearing, there's going to be a lot of disagreements throughout the year. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, putting my
end,
yeah.
in the end, Dan and I know that that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just a friendly argument.
And look, putting my Yankee fandom aside, Garrett Cole has been healthy. He's always ready to pitch, and he's always fooling people. Freddie Freeman, as far as I'm concerned, always goes on slumps. So, I mean,
look,
Just saying.
not to take anything away from Garrett Cole, he is, as I said, top 3 pitcher in the league.
He's a lump.
Okay, I would not want to face him on his worst of days. Okay, my problem with him is not his baseball play; it's his attitude towards the game and the way he treats it.
At least he's not Anthony Rendon when it comes to that.
Fair enough. I was about to say, if he was ever in the top 10, it'd be in the top 10 players to play on the hell team.
yeah,
okay.
the people that don't want to be committed to baseball.
Oh, please.
That dude. Let's side.
Yeah, he had the nerves.
That dude.
Hot Mike.
That dude needs to either repay the Angels if he doesn't care about the money,
Yeah.
or just walk away. No one's saying you have to stay. You can retire at any point, dude. But I'll digress. But back to the list. The 2 things I would say, few things I would say actually. I'm with you, Dan. I would move Cole up. I'm not sure I'd put him over Freddie Freeman because I love Freddie Freeman, despite the fact that he was a Brave and now he's a Dodger.
It's National League bias, but okay.
But the other one I have, and it's Ohtani. Ohtani's not the 4th best player in baseball. If you can't call him this generation's Babe Ruth,
Yeah, but
and then put him down as the fourth best player in
But he
baseball.
takes a massive hit because he can't pitch.
Right,
And that
and I
and
get
he's a
that.
two-way player. That's what he came here for, to be a
No,
two-way player.
but you're penalizing him for getting hurt, and
Doesn't
that's
matter,
the
dude.
but that's feels like, and I might die on an island here. That feels like, to compare sports for a second, Florida State not getting into the college football playoff because Jordan Travis got hurt. Like that's
But
if
it's no, it's not the same because he came in as a two-way player and he can't pitch right now. So the only thing that he can show off is his hitting skills. Aaron Judge
by the
can
way
do
are
that.
really good
If
too.
if Aaron
Yes.
Judge, if Aaron Judge was playing all of last season, Aaron Judge is better than Shohei Ohtani as a hitter. And there's no dispute over that.
But you just said if Judge didn't get hurt. Well, Otani is hurt.
But my point is that Ohtani is different because he's a two-way player. If he showed off both of his skills as a hitter and as a pitcher and pitched amazing, then that's one thing.
But he did pitch well last year.
He did,
I
but
get he's not gonna. I get he's not doing it this year because of an injury. But when he did pitch last year, he was solid.
but we saw minimal pitching last season.
Well,
That's my
that's the
point.
Angels' fault.
No, you want to call fault to all this? Let's look at every pitcher over the last 10 years who was overused. Matt Harvey, Steven Strasburg, Max Scherzer, Verlander. Then the list goes on. Ohtani was a generational messiah. I hate to use that word, but he changed baseball all for the right way, showing that pitchers are not guys who can only get that random single or RBI or swing and spin around and do a 360 and hit a home run in San Diego. I mean, he proves that a player can be, like Dan said, that two-way pitcher dominance. And when he's pitching, the guy's striking out 8, 9 players and then going out and going 3 for 4 with a home run and 3 RBIs.
Yeah. We have to see it.
They rarely fight with you ever.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a fight.
We have to see Ohtani pitch. Sorry, I apologize. We have to see Ohtani pitch in order for us to, for sure, say best player without a doubt. We can only say he's the best hitter. That's just me.
And I agree with Dan.
But my point is just this, and I'm not disputing what you've said. His injury for pitching and that's all it's hurting is his pitching. He's still out there day in, day out. And by the way, I'm not going into this year, but he was on a lousy team, and he was the only reason to watch said lousy team. And
Fair enough
that haven't been relevant since the 2002 World Series, but which, by the way, before that, they hadn't been relevant since the Angels in the Outfield movie.
Yeah, but that's a lot of players. You know, Aaron Judge was the only relevant player for the Yankees last season. They were a lousy team.
No, because Garrett Cole won the Cy Young. Garrett Cole.
Yeah, but what was the narrative? Garrett Cole did his thing and still lost.
Oh,
And that's a fair way to put it. You know, here's the key question, since we're talking Aaron Judge quickly, Dan. The injury he had at the end of last season, the ligament, I believe it was in the right toe, whatever, right or left, it doesn't matter. He's come out and said it's going to require extreme maintenance. Do we expect Aaron Judge to miss at least 30 games because of this?
Well, yeah, he's going to miss a lot of time. I mean, if that's the case, obviously he doesn't have to. He can continue playing and you'll still be great. I expect him to do the latter. But if he does have to take some time because of whatever, fine. Like, it's not a big deal. Because we have Soto, we have a lineup that's ready to go. But no, Judge will be out there. I'm not worried about that. He'll play a chunk of the season if he doesn't have that whatever dumb shit the Dodgers have injury type of thing. You know, the outfield wall.
I really thought you meant. My mind went to the Dodgers are going to pay him $700 million to then wind up only paying 2 million of it. Is that what we're talking about? But then, just to go back to Ohtani for a second, I'm going back to last year. He did make 23 starts last year, and he was 10-5 with a 3.14 ERA. So,
And that was with an injury forming.
He has to lower it. If you can get to the twos, we have to, because if he's as good as a pitcher as people say he is, then he can get under the 3.14. Even as like a 2.90. Like, that's perfect.
No, I don't disagree. But again,
I have not seen Cy Young conversations for Shohei.
And you won't see it this year.
You know?
So, Dan, I asked this to Mark, and we both brought up that we wouldn't have Soto in the top 10. Who would you move into his spot?
I mean,
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
you gotta put Bryce Harper in there. I'm sorry. Like, there should be no, Bryce Harper is an electric player. He easily slides into that 10 spot. And it so baffles me that a lot of these Philly players just don't get the respect they do, because that's a good ball club that they have.
I also understand, the guy's been injured every single season. The best center fielder is not in the top 10 for the first time, and I can't remember how long. And that's Mike Trout. If anything,
He's kind of lazy though.
It's his. I don't disagree with you there. I think he got comfortable with Shohei in the lineup with him.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a big year for Trout. So,
and he has to show off, because that Angels team is nothing.
The most important thing for him, he's got to stay healthy.
Yes.
That's the big thing. Because the Angels are an ultimate wild card, because they could be somewhat decent and surprise folks, or they're going to be really bad. And this goes into the whole Trout conversation, which I wrote about the website, www.thesportsinsanityNetwork.com. He talked.
Sponsor.
He talked about asking for a trade, and he goes, and it felt like he was just trying to be loyal to the Angels. And at the moment, I just feel like the Angels have wasted the primes of Mike Trout, and they wasted a prime of Shohei Ohtani, which saw him go up I think it's the I-5 to LA. So the Angels are at more of a crossroads here than I think most teams in baseball are.
That, on top of the fact that their owner doesn't want to spend anything and is terrible at his job.
Well,
then.
And it's not that they don't want to spend anything. It's the fact that when they do spend, they spend wrong.
Yeah.
Anthony Rendon, wrong. Josh Hamilton was wrong. Albert Pujols, we only know you signed him for the milestone homers. Love you, Albert. CJ Wilson, their contract decision-making sucks. It doesn't matter who the GM is. It doesn't matter who the owner is. It doesn't matter. It feels like everything since 2002 for the Angels has been just the opposite of what an Angel should get, if we're going that route. All right. But all right, so you said Bryce Harper, and Mark, you said Paul Goldschmidt should replace Soto in the top 10. All right. All right, we'll move on. Mark, this goes to you. I only put it on because you're here. And it's the Kodai Senga news of him starting the year on the injured list. But Hold on. There was something I just saw pass by on Twitter, but you could talk while I find it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm so honored to get the permission to talk. I did not know we were in a dictatorship here. Um,
Damn right.
this news. Unfortunately, the sad thing is, I wasn't surprised by it because now you've put Kodai Senga as the number one in New York. So now he's trying to be that number one, and by doing that in all season workouts and all that, what happens? He's got the same injury that not only Justin Verlander, but Max Scherzer also suffered last year. The good thing is it's caught early. It's treatable. It's not a season-ending injury. It's frustrating. I texted to Mike last night. When I was like, before batters up, if I don't say this now, I'm going to say it on the Family Guy of Stewie sitting in the stands, and here's the first pitch, and the Mets season's up. That's the image that comes into my head. However, the only thing the Mets really can do this year, and besides being a loyal fan as I have been and always will be, is go out there and play. The biggest thing is they could end up surprising a lot of things. Look at what happened to certain teams last year, could happen to them this year. No, I do not wish fail injury to anybody. Kodai Senga is said and quoted by John Stearns, he will make a number of starts.
David Stearns.
What did I say? John Stearns?
John Stearns.
Yeah, did I say John Stearns? Okay, that is a massive ding. I come back from the old SIP days, you to make
Bring back John Starks.
Sorry. As Stearns said, he'll make a number of starts. The problem with that statement is the key word in there is number. We don't know what that number could be. Number could be 5. We're going to have to wait and see, but it is disheartening to say none the least.
All right. So this came from Carlos Mendoza as the Mets get ready to play the Astros in a spring training game this afternoon. Kodai Senga traveled back to New York to receive a PRP injection and will not throw for 3 weeks. And then I guess that he'll be reevaluated at that point.
Right.
Which means Ron Darling is pitching opening day. So Ronnie, get your shoulder ready to go. Oh, all right. All right. So Mark, you talked about teams the Mets could surprise. Last year, we talked about how surprising the Diamondbacks were most of the year. We're at spring training, so everyone's got high hopes. Who are teams that can surprise us this year?
I know we go through it every year and we say it, and they have been there. I think San Diego is a team that might have lost a couple of players. This is a complete ball team. And the way they went out last year, I think it's all over with. Tatis is fresh off everything. Bogarts is ready. You gotta have a resurgence in Cronenworth. I mean, you got a great team. Machado. The team is there. They just have to win. And I think that's the team that's going to be the surprise, and it's going to be the challenger for the Dodgers this year.
Dan, you got anyone who's going to surprise this year?
I think a big surprise, and I mean, this is more of just a hope that will happen. But I want to see the Tigers, man, do something. Like, I think the Tigers, they have some good prospects and they've signed some good players that are growing in this system that Hinch has on this ball club. I really do think that they could be one to sort of shock the world. I think we talked about the AL Central the other day, Mike.
Yeah, we did.
About how it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Now that, there's really not a lot of teams except the Twins who kind of downgraded, kind of did. We don't really know until we see it. like I truly think that the Tigers really have a shot, at least for a wild card. I mean, this American League isn't they I don't think they've gotten better, any of these teams.
Yeah,
The only team in the American League that I see have gotten better is Baltimore.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm with you on a certain to a certain extent because I like the Tigers too. I'm gonna go the Royals.
Okay.
Listen. I don't I don't know why, but they bring in a guy like a Seth Lugo and a Michael Waka, and they're not sexy names, but they're veterans who bring some stability to a young team.
I
I
respect
don't
that.
think they're a playoff team yet, but they're on the rise.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of when they were, you know, before they got to the 2015 World Series with the Hosmers and the Sal Perez's and Alex Gordon's and those guys. I think they're trending that way. They have a superstar in Bobby Witt. The Royals, they haven't been this relevant since the Lord song came out, but I think they're right there.
You mentioned Seth Lugo, who
Yep.
we're still trying to get his identity as a starter because for the longest time, big time reliever, very reliable guy. He just needs quality starts, man. I'm talking like an
Yeah,
actual
six
quality
innings.
start, 6 to 83 runs.
Yep.
Like that's all you really need from him. If he somehow builds up and he starts going 7, 8, now we're cooking. The
The
Royals got
problem with,
something.
with the 7, 8 stuff is nobody, unless you are Garrett Cole or a bona fide ace, nobody goes 7 or 8 innings anymore.
Which is silly because if he's on a roll, then
Oh, yeah.
you gotta read the
One
room.
his pet peeves is when a starter gets pulled when he's got a no hitter going.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Oh,
Or Creighton Kershaw.
Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell in the World Series when he's got a no hitter going. What are we doing? Oh man. Oh, oh, terrible. But all right, so we got a Padres, we got a Royals, we got a Tiger. Oh my. I mean, look, everyone's got.
Wow. When you think about that for a second, we got a high religious figure, we got a emperor, and then we got the king of the jungle. Could we have planned that any better?
Yeah. Um. No, we couldn't.
I don't think that could have came out any better.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Hashtag Bill Murphy would have liked that little segment.
Throw me off for a second. You did. Oh man. All right. All right. So last week, Dan and I went over American League ball players who on each team who we think needed to either have a breakout year or step up in a certain way. This week we'll do the National League. We'll go division by division, team by team, and uh, give you a player who we think needs to have a good year here for either themselves or for their team to have a successful year. And we'll start with the NL East, Mark. And who needs to have a great year for the Braves to be successful? Well, knowing they'll already be successful.
It's the Atlanta Braves, and I'm sorry, there's one person who I would love to see outdo what he did last year, and that's Ronald Acuna Jr. I love watching. It's a hard thing to say about the Braves at all. I love watching this kid play, and I think he is just so phenomenal. And I think when he's on, the whole team gets behind him, and they perform.
Dan?
Staying with the Braves and keeping it going. Ronald Acuna for sure. Absolutely. For basically Mark's reasons. I mean, I really think not only does he have to have a great season, he has to be top tier league MVP status. Keep that
Needs to
going.
maintain that top player in the game
Bec-
status.
because to me, I think the Braves need it. The Braves um have missed their opportunities of appearing in the championship series.
Hmm.
And part of the reason was hitting was a non-factor, pitching was a non-factor. So if they need to keep that consistent throughout the entire season into the playoffs. Cunha can do that.
Okay, so I went outside of the box. I'm going to go with the guy they traded for, Chris Sale. You know what you're going to get out of Spencer Strider and his great mustache.
I don't like Purcell though.
Max Fried had some injuries last year, but if you can get Chris Sale to be somewhat decent or somewhat back to form, you got a 1, 2, 3 there in that rotation that stacks up. And then throwing Charlie Morton behind that, that's just a little curveball that the Braves have. And it strengthens their strength because they're going to score a bajillion runs anyway.
That's the key. That's the trade-off for Sale's age. So I mean, if Sale, goes out and gives them, say, five and 2/3 innings a game, gives up 2 runs and whatnot, and they're putting up 3, that's all that matters.
Right. Like I'm not saying he has to be the Cy Young winner.
Exactly. That's where
He just
where I
has
was
to
going
do
with
his
that.
job, which he wasn't doing in Boston. All right. Dan, who needs to have a pretty good year in Philly?
So in Philly, I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but I need JT Realmuto to start getting it back up there, man. Like
Oh,
I was very, very, very surprised of his low batting average and his inability to produce, especially since we've seen good years then when he was with, in Miami and, you know, his early days with Philly. Like we saw a lot of production out of it behind the plate, at the plate. Like it's to me, the production has to ramp back up a little bit. I was very disappointed in him last year for sure.
Mark.
Dan and I always are on the same page. For me, for Philly to have it, Zach Wheeler has to have the type of years he was having, and he has to stay consistent. I think Wheeler is a very intricate part of that rotation. I think he can be as dominant as any pitcher when he's on, as I watched him play not only with the Mets, but over the last few years. I think if Wheeler has a good season like he can be, it's a possibility he could be up there for Cy Young candidate.
He probably will be. And knowing former Met legends, he might win it. I'm going Alec Bohm because Alec Bohm had 27 homers, 96 RBIs last year. We're in an era where Schwarber leads off for this team because we know what he's capable of. But then you go through that Turner, Harper. Last year it was Castellanos. And then there was kind of a dip a couple of years ago. If Alec Bohm has a similar year to what he had last year, the Phillies can definitely rival both the Braves and the Dodgers when it comes to lineups. And
I think that's a fair enough statement.
yeah, but by the way, the Phillies have knocked the Braves out of the playoffs the last 2 years. It was very brave of them to do that.
What a shunda.
Did you just say what is Shunga?
Shunda. Don't you speak Yiddish?
Very little. Oh,
Cocking.
oh man! All right,
We are a multi-language.
we're bilingual. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, that's no way makes us bilingual. You said it in English.
It's Japanese. Where are you talking?
No, 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 no. You didn't have any accent.
I can't do an accent. That would get us kicked out for a lot of other reasons. All right,
And now back to the
back to
NL.
baseball. All right, the Marlins. Who has to have a good year for them to surprise?
Making him laugh makes part of this podcast even funnier because he's the one who's usually making us laugh. So, as for the Marlins, it has to be the guy they just traded, they just signed, not traded for, and that's Tim Anderson. Even though he's gotten a bad rep and he's had a couple of bad seasons, I've always liked watching play in Chicago. I think he's a dominant ball player, and I think by kind of being humble in the way, taking almost 100% pay cut to play. Yes, you're playing on a tier 4 team, but if he makes some noise, maybe he can become trade worthy come the trade deadline and go to a contender.
Dan,
A bounce back candidate for the Marlins has to be utility man Nick Gordon. Once a very good top prospect. And obviously he was with the Twins last season. He filled in at second base because of injuries, but like, he wasn't very good. And for someone who was once considered a really good ball player, top 100, fell off quickly before he got to the major leagues. Nick Gordon has something to prove in Miami. And I think pretty much with no expectations. We don't expect the Marlins to do a lot. Even though they're a good team, we don't expect them to do much. So, in a team that has little expectations, I want to see him ball out a little bit and go back to the form that he was uh, trying to get up into the system.
I'm going with the starting pitching. There's no Sandy Alcantara. He's going to be out with Tommy John surgery. If the other guys fall in line, the Jesus Luzardos, who's been mentioned in trade talks, Trevor Rogers, the 20-year-old Yuri Perez, if those guys fall in line, the Marlins do enough offensively, they can shock the world again for the second straight year and make the playoffs. All right. All right, Mark, the Mets, who has to have a bounce back or big year?
The year that needs to be had is by Jeff McNeil. I'm a diehard Pete Alonso fan. I love every player on that team, let's be honest. It's Jeff McNeil. He won the Silver Slugger 2 years ago, made that all-star, and he just fell off last year and had I don't want to call it a prima donna-esque mind.
Yeah,
No, he's a solid hitter. He had a bad year. I saw a lot of players play last year who had bad years.
He gets
What I
into
want.
these things, sorry for cutting you off,
No,
where he should be a 300 hitter, but there are times where he just falls in love with trying to hit a home run, and that's
and
not who you are.
and that's the problem. Look, Jeff McNeil it reminds me of a lot of my Daniel Murphy. He makes contact with the ball. The ball is always put in play. And Daniel Murphy, yeah, with a little bit more power strung and could hit home runs. But Jeff McNeil is so good at getting the ball, whether it's down the line or into the gap, that it helps move those runners. And that's where he's going to come in and help. Probably, I have a lot of people are saying he's going to be in the top of the order. I have him as the fifth hitter, and I think that's where he needs to be.
Between the span of 2019 and 2022, that Met lineup that featured McNeil. McNeil was a massive threat, along with Pete Alonso, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But McNeil was a massive threat. The fact that he sort of got away from the basics a little bit of his hitting, it's stunned me a little bit. And you can tell the frustration was there with Jeff. You can tell that there was a lot of frustration. He clearly didn't get anything going like he wanted to, and you just gotta get back to the basics, man. Like, simple, just base hits, doubles. Like, you're gonna get your RBI. You're gonna get it. Just um go back to what you did better, which is getting contact and getting on base. And that's another thing. He needs to get on base because that's the big end leg thing with it. Gets on base. So do that.
And one of the biggest things is that a lot of people say it's Brendan Nimmo who has to have the more. No, Nimmo's fine.
No.
Nimmo didn't do anything wrong. No, Nimmo's getting moved to left field to put probably and arguably the best defensive center fielder right now actively in baseball in Bader out there. But McNeil is going to hit you home runs. They're going to be sporadic. Like Dan said, making contact and getting on base is what McNeil needs to do, and he can return to form by doing that and not worrying about overpowering the ball. Sorry, Mike, I know you wanted to go.
No, the other part is, and I wonder how much this impacts it. Eric Chavez coming back as the hitting coach.
That's what I wanted.
Last year he was promoted to bench coach, and so that's probably something that will also help Jeff McNeil. Is the return of Eric Chavez to being the hitting coach.
Oh, excuse me.
Dan, are you going to go McNeil too, or did you have?
No, I'm going with Severino.
Oh, okay.
He had a dreadful season with the Yankees last season. He's always hurt, and it worries me. Even though it's a good pickup, low risk, good pickup for the Mets, it worries me that he has to go on the mound. He has to go back to being the Severino that was once going to be the ace of the Yankees staff. So, and look, obviously, I wish him well. I hope he has a better outcome in Queens. But it worries me. He has to have a bounce back season, like unlike anything I've ever seen.
To bring up something with Dan, because I have a good question for him. Severino was a Yankee, and I do agree at one point with Dan that Severino had a chance to be that man at the top of the rotation. The thing that besides injury, obviously when they signed him, that's obviously everything that went through Mets fans was the injury-plagued seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be safe to say the Mets would be safe to pitch him fourth or fifth instead of with the injury to Senga to move him up?
So you had to move him up because of the Senga injury. But no, 4 or 5 is good for him. Like you have to not have a lot of expectations for Severino, given what the end of his time in the Bronx would like.
Right.
He also might be a guy who benefits kind of like a bulk guy when you use an opener kind of deal.
Okay.
That might be something.
But you know what? Here's something I've talked about with Bill a lot. If the Yankees decided to keep Severino, in which they obviously did not. One of the things that I always talked about with Bill, that I always fought with him on, was this idea of turning Severino into a reliever. Because there have been times where the Yankees, and I know this was like short term, because this is in playoffs mostly, because in the playoffs you don't have to have a big time starting rotation because you're not playing that many games. But when Severino was coming out of the bullpen, he was lights out.
Yes.
He was very lights out. So I wrestled this with my brother. I wrestled this with Bill. I wrestled it with many Yankee fans. I said, what would it? I know you're paying him like a starter, but if you were to keep him around, would it be a fair idea just to have a season with him in the bullpen? And then, since he already has starting experience, you can use him as an opener and all that stuff. And, a lot of fans just didn't agree. And I feel like he'd be much better as a reliever. But like I said, the Mets didn't get him to be a reliever. They got him to be a starter. And your expectations of him as a starter have to change a little bit because he's not what he once was touted to be.
Would he turn into the next Seth Lugo for the Mets?
Yeah. He can. if you decide to go that route. I mean, I don't know.
We also have to see what he looks like in spring training before we make that decision.
Yeah, well, this is true also, but it's good having these conversations. It's a good
No,
jumping off
but it's a
point.
great conversation. And I think for a team like the Mets, there are a lot of guys we could look at. Mark looked at McNeil, Dan looked at Severino. I could look at a number of guys. The guy I went with is Starling Marte for three reasons. One, when he's in the lineup, he's one of the few stolen base guys for the Mets. Nemo doesn't run that much. Harrison Bader will run, but he's probably going to hit ninth in the order. So
Would make the most sense.
You need someone to get into scoring position for the Pete Alonsos, the McNeils, the Francisco Alvarez's, to drive them in so their numbers, one, could get inflated, but two, well, the Mets don't score a ton. They're not one of these great offenses. So you need that speed influence. Two, Marte's pretty good in right field. And you need some. By the way, if Marte, Bader, and Nemo's it's a pretty good defensive outfield out there.
Yes.
So he needs to stay healthy and produce. All right. Yeah, I mean, we could have went Brett Beatty on this. Excuse me.
No, Beatty has time. I'm not
No,
worried about.
I'm not arguing that.
I'm not worried about Beatty.
But we could have went another. Mark, your guy Vientos.
I'm still very big on him. So
yeah. The newest signing, G-Man Choi. That's my guy. All right.
G-Man the He-Man. Choi.
G-Man the He-Man. All right. Dan, you're down in the DC area. What about the Nats? Who has to have a big year?
Well, I mean, the Nationals have a lot of young players, so to me, there's not really much of players that you're expecting to have bounce back seasons because they're all trying to figure it out at the same time. One player that he's not on the 40 man yet, but he's definitely on a path to it. It's Jesse Winker. He was with the Brewers last season.
Reds legend.
Yeah, solid hitter.
Exactly. He obviously, he's been one of the better outfield hitters in hitting outfielders in baseball. And, like you said, had good years with the Reds, somewhat of an iffy year with Seattle, and then Brewers just fell off. And now he's getting this chance in Washington, which, again, a team that is expected to do nothing but grow. Because, there's a lot of young prospects that are expected to grow a lot with the Nats. I expect him not necessarily have like a great season, but he has to be better than what he's been given.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go that route. Another person that's like an honorable mention is Joey Meneses, but I feel like he's going to be a one-hit wonder, which kind of sucks because, Meneses made a lot of noise when he came up as a 30-year-old rookie and started hitting bombs everywhere.
For me, it's Patrick Corbin for two reasons. One, if the Nationals are good, Patrick Corbin's at the top of the rotation. But
he's
two,
not.
Even if Patrick Corbin is he has to be somewhat decent so they could move off of Patrick Corbin.
But Patrick Corbin, he has disappointed Nationals fans way too much.
Right. He's coasted off of that 2019 World Series.
Yeah. He has his shortcomings are becoming the norm in Washington. I don't think you can expect much more. You absolutely should want him to have a good season and amount. But if he's going to continue to stink, then what else can we talk about other than he's a massive disappointment?
Right. My point is they need him to have a good year for the two reasons I said. One, you could move him. So make him at least if you're willing to eat whatever's left of the contract, if you're willing to eat part of it, and two, psychologically speaking, he needs to have a bounce back, and because he was an ace pitcher before, now he's throwing batting practice a lot.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what? Like at this point for the Nationals, they focus on like a Josiah Gray. You
Yeah.
know, like he to me, that's your future. That's your ace.
Oh, and he's got the stuff.
Mhm.
But you were right when you said it. The Nationals have young talent. Josiah Gray, Keibert Ruiz, CJ Abrams is going to be a star.
Mhm.
You know, so
But
they
again, last year they were just trying to figure things out. They obviously they're not going to be a good team. They weren't a good team last year, though. Like I said, you know, I was like a 70 range. I think they were less than that.
Look it up.
But like this season, like I expect at least a little bit more. I'm sort of thinking like what the Orioles were in 2022. You know, that team that, you know, they weren't expected to do much, but they were in a playoff race. That's what I'm sort of thinking about the Nationals here with their squad, with the team that they have. I know it's like maybe I'm a little biased DMV region, but like, you know, but like that's sort of how I'm thinking of things.
Mark, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, quickly. The one guy, you know, the Nationals have a lot of young talent, as these guys have aforementioned. I'm looking at Nick Senzel. Gonna be starting third base for the Nationals this year, coming over from the Reds. He has talent. He has probably the most experience really out there on the team next to Dan's favorite player, Joey Gallo. And I think Senzel, if he can just get this locker room together and just go out there and play, nobody in the league is picking them to go really anywhere, but you got to start as a team somewhere.
Dan, your point, the Nats won 71 games last year.
Yeah.
All right. On to the NL Central, the Brewers. And we'll go a little bit quicker now, but the Brewers, who needs to step up there, Mark?
Oh God.
It's
it's like asking. It's like I was gonna say the guys I want to say are gone. You know, I mean, this was Corbin Burns' year to say, "Hey, look, I'm a star pitcher. I'm going anywhere." Now he's gone somewhere else. I don't really know. Who am I going to say is going to be on Milwaukee? I mean, I guess you have to stay with that leader in Christian Yelich. I mean, he's the old man there. We've seen old men come out and do wondrous things. I'm one of them. Go, old men.
Go, old man, was just
oh my God.
God. Between that and the uniforms, we just
I broke Mike. There we go. It's
can't
finally
go
happened.
for it. Like, oh my God.
He didn't get a chance last year. Rhys Hoskins, man. Give me Rhys Hoskins. I mean, the dude's a hitter. The dude can hit. He can hit bombs too. He obviously the Phillies decided to move on with him, which is fine. You know, they know they can move on and do well without him. The Brewers, if Rhys Hoskins can make the Brewers lineup that much better, that's a massive plus for them. So I'm going with Rhys Hoskins. I'm not sure if you'll get Philadelphia numbers, but you never know. You never know with this with everything.
I'm with you, Dan. I'm with Rhys Hoskins too, and he may not put up the Philly numbers, but he'll put up numbers if he's on the field and he's healthy.
Yeah.
I can't put faith in Christian Yelich to stay healthy. I don't know what I'm getting out of the pitching staff. With Woodruff not pitching and Burns, but Milwaukee is kind of like the National League version of the Rays, where they just pitch really well and they find ways. So I'm with Dan on Hoskins. On to the Cubs. I'm going with the rotation behind Justin Steele. I love Kyle Hendricks. Injuries, and he's getting a little bit up there. But they signed the Japanese guy, Imanga. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, good luck.
But he's an unknown. And everyone outside of Justin Steele is an unknown. They let Marcus Stroman go. The Cubs are going to score because they have a lineup that can drive in runs. They just brought back Bellinger, as we mentioned earlier. But the question is, can you combine the pitching with the offense? That remains to be seen.
I mean, this team obviously we had already talked about the fact that Cody Bellinger has rejoined the Cubs. You can look at this team and you see a lot of talent on the field between, you got Dansby Swanson, you got this rookie Christopher Morel, who's I really can't wait to see him play. But for me is Nico Horner. When this guy is on, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. I see him go on tears now. He's not going to hit you 300 or anything. He's going to bat you about 250, 260. But he goes on tears, and he's a solid contact hitter. And when he's on, that team just rotates and works well together.
And they got some young players. Horner, Morel, Patrick Wisdom can hit.
Yep.
They got some things there. Dan?
Which team is this again? I apologize.
The Cubs.
Oh, Cubbies.
Don't worry, Dan. That's how I was with Milwaukee.
I gotta go JMO. Tyone, man. When he was with the Yankees, we're very, very, very happy. By the way, my video is not on. I'm currently nursing something. I'm nursing a cut, so I don't want to show that on screen. But when he's with the Yankees, Tyone was very reliable. He wasn't the greatest starter, but he was reliable. He had almost a 5 ERA last season in 29 starts. That's not good. That's not even close to anything near what he was with the Yankees. I'll turn my video on because I'm fine now. But I need JMO to come back and be the pitcher, the reliable pitcher that he was with the Yankees. If he can be that with the Cubs, along with what they already have, they're a playoff team.
All right, Mark, the Cardinals. Who has to step up and have a good year?
There's no doubt in my mind. It's the guy who was left out of the top 10, and that's Paul Goldschmidt. Unfortunately, he had a I'm sorry, I'm going to even go worse than that. Putrid season last year. It happened. The guy looks healthy. Mind you, I've only seen what able to be seen so far, and it's one day. He looks healthy. He looks leaner. We'll see how that translates into the season. I expect him to return to form, though. And by him doing that, everybody else will just follow.
All right, Dan, what does your brother say about the Cardinals?
Well, he apparently likes Sonny Gray, which is great. Great to hear because the Yankees ruined him. He's obviously, I don't think they're expecting much in St. Louis, but seems like a good locker room that they have there. In terms of a player that really needs to bounce back, it's Lance Lynn. Abysmal season. And he obviously, he spent a lot of time with the Cardinals before obviously going moving times between the Dodgers and the White Sox and all that stuff. Um, and I think him returning and then possibly making some type of run would be historic for them. I think that would be nice for him. It'd be a good story for St. Louis, and let's see if he can. He ain't gonna do it with a 6 ERA
No,
though. He's not gonna do it with a 6 ERA.
No.
I'm going to go Wilson Contreras. They spent
Okay.
a lot of money
That's
on
actually a
Wilson
good one, too.
Contreras last
Yeah.
year. And then there was this whole thing of the pitchers didn't want to pitch to him. And it was all nonsensical. And it was kind of the sign of the Cardinals season, which was uncardinal like. So they need him to bounce back. They need him to catch. And if he has a good year, a 3-4-5 of Goldschmidt, Arenado, Contreras, it's pretty good. So, all right. The Reds surprised a lot of people last year. Mark, who has to step up and push them over the edge?
Coming from the dugout of Millwood, that's who's speaking right now. This team is going to be the most exciting team in baseball. They might not win a lot. They're going to be fun to watch. You are looking at the youngest crew in baseball to step on a field this year, and there is none more electric than Ellie De La Cruz. I can't wait to watch this kid play. I think he's going to be great. But the guy I think who has to have an emergence right off of De La Cruz is Christian Encarnacion-Strand. This kid's got a bat and he's got power. I hope beyond hope that these guys follow each other in the order either way.
Mm-hmm.
And I need them to do well because I have a lot of autographed rookie cards.
Yeah, that's
Dugout of Millwood is a sponsor, so I can say that.
That's right. You can promote your cards. That's fine. Just the way that came out, man. Dan, what about you for the Reds?
For the Reds, I need Frankie Montas to go back to his Oakland roots and get back to form.
I like his Frankie Montas performance with the Bronx.
Yeah, that was terrible. Look, I understood what Brian Cashman was thinking. Look, he was thinking, let's see if we can get Frankie Montas Oakland like 2021 Oakland like numbers and see if we can help. And it didn't work out. So it is what it is. But look, he with the Reds. I think he certainly will have a better coaching staff than what Aaron Boone had with the Yankees. So I think they'll sort of correct his issues and he'll be back into what he was in Oakland. Like I really do believe that. He was well known there. He became a household name in the Bay Area. Let that translate to Cincinnati. Fans are gonna love him in Cincinnati if he plays well.
I'm in a similar form as you. I put the rotation after Hunter Green because the Reds, I thought, were in the same position as the Orioles. If you get a guy at the top of the rotation, we are not talking about a World Series team yet, but we're talking about a team that I think could have been the definitive favorite in this division, and they didn't do it. They signed Montes. They still have some young pitchers. They could trade for Dylan Cease still by the deadline if they're in the race. I just think that's the one thing this team really needed, and they didn't go out and get it. So it's a sign to me that they firmly believe in this rotation, and they need to prove why there's a belief inside that rotation. All right. Who needs to not walk the plank, Mark, for the Pittsburgh Pirates to not lose 100 games?
There's a lot of talent on this team, but there's only one guy that I can see. That's got to be O'Neal Cruz. This kid is probably got one of the best arms I've ever seen throw across a diamond. And with Beautiful accuracy, but he can also hit. I just hope Pittsburgh is going to do enough to protect him in the lineup so he can represent the numbers that he technically could put out this year.
All right, Dan,
Rowdy Telez. Can we
get
get
rowdy.
Can we get 35 home runs, 89 RBI version of Rowdy Telez from 2 seasons ago? Um, and I know it's on a short-term deal with the Pirates, but if we can get that version of him in Pittsburgh, again, I'm not expecting much. Again, the Central Division is trash. So let's put it this way. That's why it's so wide open. But Pirates get that version of him. That's a huge, huge win for them.
Hmm. Yeah, Mark, I'm more with you on a young position player. I'm going to keep Brian Hayes.
Okay.
20 homers last
Not
year.
terrible. I like that. Yeah.
You know, he played better. He's got to be a little bit better defensively. But again, they're so young. Them and the Reds, they're both young, exciting, but both need to take that next step forward. The Pirates got off to that great start last year, and then they walked the plank. So, all right, NL West time. And this time I'm going to go from the bottom up just because the team at the top is literally the Monsters. Dan, who has to step up for the Colorado Rockies?
Everyone has to step up to the Colorado Rockies. They kind of
safe way out.
they
No,
kind of
he's not wrong.
They kind of
No, he's not wrong at all.
They kind of surprised everyone at the beginning of the season, and they fell off. Everyone needs to step up because they got nobody on that team. So come together and step up, everybody.
Mark.
Well, I think Dan kind of covered it. He did say everyone, so he technically named everybody. Chris Bryant, yeah, he's there. He's going to be a leader, whatnot. That's what they're going to allow. But let's look at a guy like Julio Carreras, starting at possibly third base, a young rookie, 24, possibly starting there. I didn't say he will be.
You got a
Has
card?
a good No, I don't have a card to hits yet. Working on it. Has a chance to develop well. I mean, you can look at Ryan McMahon, who's been their starting third baseman. The problem with McMahon, though, over the last couple of years, he's been injured a lot. That's what I think is going to give the way into letting Correas get some starts.
All right. I also want the easy way out with Dan. I didn't go everybody, but Chris Bryant. You go there, and then he just becomes walking wounded. He's always hurt. You need to show your former MVP self why this team signed you. Otherwise, listen, the Rockies are going to look up at everybody again. They're not very good, and they don't spend the money. So that's just that. All right, who has to take a giant step for the Giants, Dan?
I mean, who has to take a giant step?
I just used the Giant because it's the Giants. That's all I'm doing.
I need my boy Conforto to come back and swing it like he was with the best. He wasn't awful, but he needs to be better. He needs to. You're talking about earning your stripes, earning your contract. Conforto needs to earn his contract, so I'm going to go with him, and he better have like a massive season.
I'm going Joey Bart. The Giants took him high in the draft to replace Buster Posey, and it seems like he hasn't had enough. And then Patrick Bailey came up last year and outshined him. Joey Bart's kind of that guy for me. You need to see something this year. Mark?
For me, it is center fielder Mike Yastrzemski. I like this kid. I mean, he's not a catcher like Papa was, but he's got a nice bat, can hit to all fields. His defense needs a little bit of work. I mean, he did make some spectacular plays last year. I'm not going to take that away from him, but he needs a little bit more awareness in the field. I mean, he's not a young kid, he's not an old guy either, but if he wants to progress anywhere, now is the time for him to do it.
All right, on to the Padres, who I think we're all in agreement they might have been the biggest disappointment in all baseball last year.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at Joe Musgrove. I look at the pitching staff as a whole. I don't want to single it, but if Darvish and Musgrove are as good as they were 2 years ago, then the Padres have a shot. But if they're not good, it could be another utter disastrous year in a place where disasters don't happen.
It's interesting you said Musgrove because Musgrove was that guy. You know, he was that top tier pitcher,
Yeah.
and everyone, including him, fell off
Yeah.
last season. That was shocking to watch that unfold. So definitely him. He could really use it. The San Diego guy, could really use it for his hometown team.
Is that who you're going with, too?
No, I'm going with Machado.
Okay.
I know injuries plagued him a little bit, but you know what? I need like 50 home runs, Machado. I need 100 RBIs, Machado. I need him to up the ante massively. And I know he can do it. And he seems a little checked out, but I don't know if you guys feel the same way. But I feel like he's starting to check out a little bit, San Diego.
I mean, you could check out the weather. It's great.
Always sunny in San Diego.
It is. That should have been the damn show. FX, what the hell are we doing?
Machado, that guy.
All right, Mark.
For me, it's Jake Cronenworth. This guy's had
One.
such an upside over the last few years. A great utility infielder, can play first, second, and third. So he's used all around. He was a consistent hitter, hitting upwards around 270. He's got to kind of repeat that this year. I don't expect the guy to hit 300, but 270, 20, 25, and 75 RBIs, I think is very feasible for him. And he adds that. That's going to make the lives of Tatis and Bogarts a lot easier. And Machado.
All right. The team who won the National League last year, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Dan, who should have to step up? This is weird because everyone did step up last year.
That's the
Literally.
thing. Like, who is it?
Who needs to step up more?
Ketel Marte.
Okay.
Cattle.
Good pick. I like him.
I say Ketel. It's easier, better off the tongue.
Oh, that is it, man.
He bounced back a lot last season. He fell off a little bit since 19. Came back last season. I think he could be much better. And I know he'll be much better.
All right, Mark.
This team is filled with stars, and they've picked up quite a few. But for me, it has to be the guy they just signed a couple of weeks ago, and that's Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He's got to come in and just show why they acquired him. Go in and do the hitting he was doing in Toronto, play the position right, and come out and be the guy that he was gonna be. Injuries kind of plagued him a little bit towards the end of his contract in Toronto. I think he could have a nice breakout season along with Carroll. And I mean, you basically can name almost anybody on this team. They all did something to get where they were last year. So
yeah, I'm gonna go similar to you with the guy they signed. I'm gonna go Eduardo Rodriguez.
okay.
He declined to trade to the Dodgers at the trade deadline last year. But you put him with Gallen and Merrill Kelly in the top three of that rotation, that could rival the Dodgers a little bit because right now the Dodgers don't have the starting rotation we all expect. So if Arizona's top three gives you what we think they could give you, Eduardo Rodriguez, you could play a pivotal role here. And then the Los Angeles Monsters, I mean the Dodgers. I mean, this is ridiculous. But
How can you say what player needs to step up? I mean, what do they need to step up to?
it's
Put in their
Dave
ATM
Roberts.
card?
It's Dave Roberts.
It's Dave Roberts.
Dave Rob. It's Dave.
I didn't write him
Roberts.
down, but it's Dave Roberts.
If I ask to pick one player, it has to be the guy I hate most. And that's not because I hate him as a ball player. I just hate him where he used to play. And that's Freddie Freeman. Anytime the man used to come to the plate, I get sick. And I got to do it anyway with the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman is one of the most pure hitters in baseball. The guy is not only great off the field in what he does humanitarianly, he's a damn fine ball player on the field, a good leader. And if he gets going, there's no stopping this team. Not like there was going to be a kryptonite shard to fall in there to stop it anyway.
The man I hate the most.
Do you know how many games I went to where the man hit a home run that decided the verdict?
Listen, he had to decide to be a free man.
Yeah, he could have went to the AL, would have been nice.
I know. Listen, you're preaching. I know. Like, you don't think I've seen this movie?
I mean, he was talking to the team on my hat, and
he was.
You
also
could have
talking
had
to the
him.
Rays.
I beg cashing for him. I beg cashing for him.
I
Yeah,
beg
by the way, Dan,
Cashman
just
for
so you know,
cash,
Cashman
man.
did not listen.
Yeah, of course. He never does. Never does.
Oh my gosh.
He's throwing bullpen. He's not cleared in any way yet. They're not rushing him back. But Walker Ferris Bueller really
Oh my God, Ferris Bueller,
Yeah.
great film.
needs to. And look, he mid-season maybe when he comes back, I better see Cy Young award winning, because the bottom line is this. I know it's probably too much of an expectation to put on him because he is coming back from 2 Tommy John surgeries, which is hard to do for any pitcher. But he's touted as a big time pitcher. So
Yeah.
come back being a big time pitcher.
He's also a free agent after the season, so it
Oh,
would
they
be
ain't signing him. They ain't
it would
signing
be
him.
behoove of him to pitch very well when he
Mhm.
comes back.
But Yankees, he should be on your radar. Hello.
Oakland A's, he should be on your radar too.
Well, Las Vegas A's.
There's going to be nothing in Oakland.
Yeah, I know, that was my point. They would sign a guy, maybe
Can,
garner some interest.
can garner some interest, in anything.
Garner some interest of the good people of Oakland. I went similar to Dan. I went Tyler Glass now.
Okay.
For what reason?
Well, a couple. He has to stay healthy because, like you said, Walker Bueller, we don't know when he's coming back. Dustin May, we don't know when he's coming back. Clayton Kershaw is not expected back till after the All-Star break. And we had the conversation earlier of Shohei Ohtani's not pitching. So it's Tyler Glass now and a bunch of guys. If Tyler Glass now doesn't stay healthy and they have to rely on the younger guys, I'm not saying they can't do the job, but it makes life a little bit more difficult for the bullpen. And it may make life a little bit more difficult for Dave Roberts, even though I don't think he's that good of a manager. So if Tyler Glasnow could stay healthy and be effective, and then once those guys come back, the Dodgers are going to win 143 games. Go for it.
That's wouldn't surprise me. That's the sad thing.
Yeah, I know. I threw an arbitrary number out just to see.
Let's put it this way. They don't win 100 games. There's something wrong in the matrix.
Shout out the Matrix movies. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves not a sponsor
Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves not a sponsor. Keanu Reeves not a part of this podcast.
yet.
Dun dun dun. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Mark, you got anything on the Dugout of Millwood?
We do have some things coming up, as the Dugout of Millwood will be joining 2 other groups in the next few months to possibly do a $10,000 break. We are in the context of talking about it and how to figure it out. It would be a 20 case break. It would be a 8-hour run. I do not expect any of my fellow members to sit through that, so you guys do not have to worry about that, except Mike, you will be in charge of compiling the list alphabetically by number, color, and size.
Sweet. Sounds like my kind of gig. All right. Check out the podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the SI and YouTube page, which we are on now. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Make blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials at S Insanity Real on Twitter. We are also on the Facebook. But for Dan, Mark, I'm Mike. We'll talk to you all next time here on the Batter Up Podcast. Stay safe and enjoy spring training, everybody.